Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another case study update. So for this video, this is going to be the fifth one in the series, and this will also be covering month 8 of this website. So at the moment, I'm in Australia and we are in one of the longest lockdowns, I believe, of any country in the world. I think it's coming around 250 days. So I thought what better time to make one of these videos, as I do have a little bit of extra time on my hands being stuck at home close to every single day. So it's pretty crazy with everything that's going on, and I hope you're all doing well out there as well. So anyway, in this video, I'm going to be going over what I've done in September and just a brief overview of the website. And then I'll be going over to the Google Search Console, the traffic for September, the Amazon earnings, Ezoic earnings, and then also my Mediavine earnings, because I have changed ad providers. And then I'll also be doing a really non-analytical overview of Ezoic versus Mediavine, and just kind of my overview of both of these platforms as well. And then I'll be sharing some insights into the link bait strategy that I mentioned a couple of videos ago for creating links in a more passive way. And then after that, I'm going to just be a little bit tongue-in-cheek and share kind of my thoughts on a new SEO acronym that I created, which is ROC, which is Reader Optimized Content. So this is something that I've really been thinking about quite a lot, especially with doing these info-based articles. So this will be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I also do think that this is also just a really important thing to think about, just in SEO and for the reader in general as well. And then after that, I'll be going over a really quick overview for a second website that I've created, and then also my plans for October as well. So going back to the first slide, just a brief overview of September and the website. So this month there was 280,000 words published, 270 posts published. So the average word count is around 1,000 words. Now, as for the website in general, there's around 1,650 posts published, 1.4 million words published, and I have invested around $60,000 to $70,000 into the website. So I really should have a more exact number, and I do have a record of all of the amount invested. They're all recorded in the accounting software and also all of the income. But I really haven't balanced kind of the books, so to speak, for this website, because the way I'm seeing it is that if I spend maybe 5 to 10 hours a month balancing all of the numbers, then those are some really valuable hours that I could be focusing on doing keyword research, publishing content, proofreading content, those types of things. So this task of checking the numbers isn't really important to me right now. However, I do have the ability to go back and create a P&L statement if I come to selling the website as well. And as for the bottom one down here, I have put in a rough valuation with an asterisk as well. And I have added that in because obviously if I was to sell the website as it is now, I wouldn't reach this valuation. So I kind of have done a 35x multiple valuation based on if the numbers were to stay the same for the next 6 to 12 months. And I just did want to speak on the amount invested into this website. So for maybe some of you watching this video who are complete beginners, I was exactly like you. Several years ago, I started off writing all of the content myself on the weekends, early in the morning, in the evening, sacrificed a lot of things to get to where this website is today. And I've just slowly been reinvesting back into these websites. I've sold 2 websites, and each of those sales has allowed me to kind of seed new websites as well. So this wasn't money that I've kind of gotten from family or friends, or I just got lucky. This has all been from reinvesting back into this particular business model of web publishing. So that's just a brief overview of the website at the moment. So moving on to Google Search Console, this is how it's looking for the last month. And as you can see, nothing much has changed. The numbers are pretty much the same. So I won't really stick on this one for too long. So moving over to the traffic for September, It's been a really great month. During September, I did hit 830,000 page views. And I think from memory, my goal was to hit 750,000 with 30,000 daily page views. So I did hit 30,000 around the 19th or 20th, and it's now hovering around 32,000 daily page views. So my goal for October is to hit 1.1 million monthly page views and 40,000 daily page views. So if I am able to hit those numbers, I'll be extremely happy, as that will by far be the biggest website I've ever created to date. And hitting the 1 million milestone per month would just be something huge. Maybe it's just a little bit of an ego boost. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's just something maybe cool to think about, that 1 million people would be seeing the website during that month. So moving on to the Amazon earnings, this is pretty much the same as last month. I haven't added in any extra Amazon links. So I think there actually has been a slight drop in the Amazon earnings. So the total for Amazon was $317, which is nonetheless still good to see, and the conversion is still quite good as well. So moving on to Ezoic, and the first thing I'll just note is, as you can see, it did drop off around the 19th to 20th of September, and that's because I did transition from Ezoic over to Mediavine. So the earnings through Ezoic was $10,962, which is still really awesome to see. And then I'll also be sharing in a couple of slides my experience of the two platforms as well. So moving over to Mediavine, the total earnings from the 20th to the 30th was $8,696. And I think the total from the top of my head for the month of September was just shy of $20,000. I think it was 19,956 or something like that. So nonetheless, a really great month. And I'm really happy to see those numbers for a website that is this young. So ever since me moving over to Mediavine, my ad earnings have seen a really nice bump. It's been around 30 to 40% increase in earnings, maybe more around the 30% range. And it did take around 5 to 7 days to peak, and then it has kind of been stabilizing since then. And I actually did hit my first ever $1,000 day with purely by ads. And I have seen some reports, mainly from John Dykstra and Anne from, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I think it's yuis.com, who have hit these numbers, and that was one of my main goals when I first created this website. I knew it definitely was possible, as I have seen others out there do it. So I'm really happy to hit that milestone for this website as well. And another really interesting thing that I wanted to share with you guys, specifically, which is only available with Mediavine, I think, is their universal video player. So this is just much like the video ad placement. However, with Mediavine and this particular ad unit, you don't actually have to upload any unique content. It's just a floating video ad unit that auto plays. And I do think it does look a little bit better when compared to the traditional video ad unit. It's got the rounded corners, it's a little bit smaller, and I find it's not as intrusive. So that's a really awesome ad unit. And as you can see, with this green here, it is making 23.5% of the earnings. And I was a little bit skeptical, because when I was on the Mediavine YouTube channel and their kind of blog posts, they did state that once you turn it on, you can see a 20 to 30% increase. And whenever I kind of hear these things, I am a little bit skeptical. So I thought that would be a little bit of a stretch, but as soon as I did turn it on, nonetheless, I actually did see a 23.5% increase in earnings. So I'm really thrilled with that ad unit at the moment. And I also have heard similar experiences of people that have been using this. I've seen one with 30% on the high end, I think. So if you don't have Universal Video Player turned on, highly recommend to check it out. And you can just toggle it on, and it's really just one click, and it kind of automatically propagates across the entire website. So moving on to a brief comparison of Ezoic versus Mediavine. So I know this can kind of go into just chaos. I've seen a lot of comparisons in kind of forums on Reddit, that kind of stuff, where people just defend Ezoic and defend Mediavine. I don't want this to kind of turn into one of those. This is just kind of like my broad overview, a very non-analytical approach to these different platforms. And I think both do have their strengths and weaknesses. The one thing I do really love about Ezoic is that if you're completely brand new to blogging and you have 1,000 page views per month, you most likely can get your website onto Ezoic. And just getting those early wins early on, just to kind of see that proof of concept can be huge in the journey, just to see that you're actually making some progress and seeing that this actually is real and you can make money online as well. And I also know with Mediavine and AdThrive, they don't accept every website and niche. So I think having something like Ezoic is also a really good substitute for those other ad platforms as well. So as for the earnings for Ezoic versus Mediavine, I'm not going to dive into the EPMV versus RPM comparison. I'm just going to do it based on my average daily traffic and how much I kind of saw after swapping. And I know there's also a lot of different variables, traffic increases, declines, the time of year, all of those types of things. So I do realize that. And again, this is a very non-analytical approach. So before swapping over to Mediavine, I would say my average daily income from Ezoic was around $675. And after moving over to Mediavine, it is now stabilizing at around 1,000 daily page views. Now, as for the traffic, they were very similar across these dates. Now, I do realize that I did change towards the end of the third quarter with Mediavine, so you typically can see a bit of a bump in earnings, especially towards the end of a quarter. However, in saying that, for the first couple of days of October, I actually have seen only a really small drop in earnings. So I think it's around $950 the first couple of days of October. So it still is performing really well. So I definitely have seen around a 30% increase after swapping from Ezoic to Mediavine. Now, one of the major things that I also think that a lot of comparisons don't share is the number of ad placements between the two platforms. So with Ezoic, I compared the ads on a single page before changing. So this one single page had 17 ads, and I also took one screenshot of this sidebar because I thought this was pretty funny, as I had 4 ads stacked on top of each other. And then also the sticky sidebar was also the same as well. So with Mediavine, I had 7 ads for that exact same blog post. So that's a massive reduction in ads and also an increase in earnings. So I do think it definitely is a better user experience compared to the two platforms. However, the time on page hasn't dropped at all. So I do think that a lot of readers nowadays are just used to a lot of ads. So I don't think it's necessarily maybe a bad thing. But just from like an aesthetic thing, an aesthetic point of view, I do think having less ads just does look a little bit better. Now, one thing I didn't personally like about Ezoic was their premium structure. That's just something that I'm personally not a fan of. I know it does put money back into your pockets, but that's just not a structure that I'm personally a fan of. Now, this table really isn't organized in a structured way, so I apologize for that. Now, over to Mediavine, one of their major strengths is their universal video player, which I've been really happy with so far. Now, one thing I do really appreciate about Ezoic, which Mediavine and I believe AdThrive does not have, is their really in-depth data analytics. So you can really dive deep into specific posts, see how much they're earning per day, and there's just a wealth of data that you can really dive into with Ezoic, which Mediavine definitely doesn't even come close to. So I do think that's one of the big pros with Ezoic. Now, as for the support, I've actually been happy with the support overall with Ezoic and Mediavine. I would say that Ezoic is a little bit slower. Mediavine is very quick, and they're also really helpful as well. But that's kind of just my overall comparison between the two. Your mileage may vary. This is just my own personal experience. And I think whatever platform you're on, you also do have the ability to try different platforms. Maybe just make your own mind up. If you're on Ezoic and you think Mediavine might be the go, you can try Mediavine. If you don't like it, go back to Ezoic, and vice versa as well. So it's best to make up your own decision, as every different niche traffic will all change, as no two websites are the same. So moving on to the next slide. So this is kind of the performance of these link bait posts that I've mentioned in previous videos. So this is one of my main link building strategies. So I like to create link bait, quote unquote, types of posts. So this could be statistics, is XYZ a skill, those types of things where people writing blog posts or articles need to find sources and references. So these are ideally kind of articles that people are going to be searching for. So these are two screenshots of two different categories of posts. So this traffic here is actually a collection of, I believe, 10 articles, and this one is about the same as well. So for 10 posts, the traffic isn't actually that high, but the kind of intent behind the traffic for getting links or giving links is extremely, extremely high. And I am expecting this to grow kind of over the long term as well. And I've actually acquired a DA91 link from one of these sources that have actually found one of these posts, and they've actually linked to it in one of their particular posts as well. So I thought I would just give a brief update on these particular types of posts. And if you do want to learn more about the link bait strategy, I do believe that is in the second video of this case study as well. So moving on to the next thing that I want to talk about. So this is kind of just a little bit of a cheeky thing that I've created myself. So if I'm making SEO videos, why not create my own SEO acronym? There's kind of thousands out there, so why not add an extra one into the mix just to confuse even more people out there? So anyway, this one is called ROC. So this is kind of a play on SEO, and this one means reader optimized content. So this is something that I really don't get, this is something that I think that doesn't get much attention in SEO. And that's really thinking about the reader, the end user of the product. Now, I was in hospitality for a few years, and one of the people that did the training was that hospitality, in a nutshell, is really about helping people. And I think that this is also a really good crossover with SEO and web publishing as well, because at the end of the day, people are searching for things, and it's our job as content creators, web publishers, whatever you want to call it, is to help that reader. Now, I know a lot of people talk about like SEO, off-page, on-page, that kind of stuff. Now, this is kind of my list of things that I like to add in a majority of my blog posts for the reader, as I really want to optimize the content for the reader, because that's the first domino to fall to kind of boosting the overall performance of the website, because Google's incentive is to also impress the reader as well. So Google and the web publisher, if those kind of things are aligned and those incentives are aligned, then it can benefit both parties. So as for what I like to include for the reader, what I think is personally a good user experience for the reader is to have short and engaging introductions. There's so much competing for people's time nowadays. You know, you don't want to read these kind of bloated introductions. You want to have short, engaging, and snappy introductions and kind of just move on with the content straight away. And then I also have Google snippets. So even if you don't win the Google snippet, I think it's still good to try and add these into your content, because say you're on position 3, someone still clicks on your blog post, having a refined and condensed article is still going to meet the needs of particular readers that are just looking for a quick answer. So even if you don't win the Google snippet, you can still have it within the content. And that's kind of catering to those readers that just want those quick answers and they want to move on with their day. And then obviously there are those readers that want to read more in depth into the actual topic as well. And then the other one that I actually surprisingly still see a lot to this day is that there's a lot of blog posts out there that actually don't answer the question. They kind of just go around the question, or they kind of talk about aspects of it, but they actually don't just go out there and answer the question, which is really, really frustrating from a user's perspective. And just for an example, I think I saw one the other day, and the question was, do whales sleep? And I think some of the top subtopics were, what are whales? Where do whales live? There was actually no subtopics around sleeping whales, like, do whales sleep in shallow water? Do sleeping whales have to come up and get air? These kind of really relevant subtopics that could be added to really help the reader better understand the question and really add an actual answers to the topic as well. And another one here is providing links within content. So I know there's kind of two trains of thought for this one. So for myself personally, when I'm reading an article and if there's something mentioned, or maybe it's referencing to a bit of data or a resource, and there's nothing there for me to click on and learn more about that particular aspect of the article, from a user's point of view, I do find that a little bit frustrating, because I have to exit out of that blog post and then go and do a secondary search for that one. So for myself personally, I do like providing almost an excessive amount of links to other resources where people can kind of skew off in a different direction and go on their journey down a different rabbit hole. And from a reader's point of view, I think that is a good user experience, as they don't have to waste that extra time in searching for that, bouncing off the page and going on. And secondary to this one is adding videos for extra context. So there's only so much you can put across when writing a particular type of topic. So you can actually you can find some videos if possible for adding extra context. And then you can also do a really quick sentence just telling them what to expect, because it's really hard to get people to click and watch on videos. However, if you do a bolded sentence and you just say, hey, you're going to find out this in this video, then that's going to kind of give them more incentive and find some value for that particular video as well. And additionally, you also want to try and include unique images if possible. Now, if you're doing a lot of blog posts, this isn't always a possibility. However, if you do have an iPhone or any camera for that matter, you can just go out, snap a few images, and kind of just create a database so you can add those throughout different types of posts. And then also, kind of similar to the Google snippet, I do find that a lot of posts just don't get to the point. I know that with newspaper writing, there's a concept called burying the lead. So they kind of, like lure you into the story, and they have like the main data or the main information down the bottom. However, from my experience, I find that putting all of the most juicy and meaty information at the top is a better user experience, because the reader doesn't have to kind of siphon through all of the different subtopics and information. They don't have to filter out all these things. They can just go straight up the top and they can see it straight away. So this does obviously affect page on time, but I do think that it is a better user experience. It is optimized for the user. And I think this is beneficial, because that means they can get the answer quicker, and that means they can stay on Google longer as well. So internal link to other posts, this is pretty standard, and I think that most people already do this. So similar to adding links to other resources and other websites, you obviously want to add internal links to other relevant resources on your own website as well. If you're going down a particular silo of content, you obviously want to add extra content or maybe additional sub-questions that people might be wanting to get answered next. And then additionally, short paragraphs. Again, this one's kind of a no-brainer, and this is something that I have been focusing on as well, especially for ad-based websites. And because around maybe 60 to 80% of all websites nowadays are getting mobile traffic, so optimizing for mobile users and also having more space for ads is also incredibly important as well. So that's kind of just my brief overview of ROC, Reader Optimized Content. Let me know what you guys think about this. And another thing that I did realize just after writing this list is that most of this stuff is on-page SEO as well. So there is quite a few overlaps between optimizing for the reader and also optimizing for Google as well. So I do think that there is no surprise that these things are kind of similar, because I think at the end of the day, on-page SEO is more so for the reader. And then you obviously can go in more in depth to adding kind of links, or sorry, words using semantic SEO and that kind of stuff. But again, I think that is secondary to kind of optimizing the content for the reader. So moving on to the next slide, this is just going to be a really, really quick one. So I did decide to create a second website. And I do think that it is worthwhile doubling down on this particular ad-based model, as I am seeing really good success at the moment. And I do plan on holding on to this main website, this case study website, because I do want to kind of create that ongoing passive income for myself. However, I also do find that there is a lot of value in selling websites as well. So this particular website that I'm creating is purely to sell it down the track. And this is in a particular niche that I've never really thought that I would go into. This is something that I really have no idea about. However, this particular niche is maybe 80% US traffic. I know there are high RPM rates compared to two other websites that I know. So I do think it is a very kind of lucrative niche for ads. And surprisingly, there actually is a lot of low competition keywords. And this is also a huge, huge niche. I would never kind of finish writing content for this particular niche. And I've also picked a very brandable domain name. So if the kind of competition gets too competitive, I can branch off into other areas as well. So as for what I've done for September, I've hired 4 writers, and they're doing around 10,000 words of content each. Now I have slowly been training them up. I usually do a trial article, give them a small 4,000 word batch, and then I move on to 10,000 word batches. So all of this does take 2 to 3 weeks to kind of ramp up. So at the moment I have 25,000 words published, around 20 articles. It's on a brand new domain name, and I am hoping to hit maybe around 100,000 words, 150,000 words of content for October if everything goes well. So moving on to the next slide, and this is my plans for October, and I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. I think in a John Dykstra email newsletter or maybe a podcast, I might butcher what he said, but he said that there is a beauty in finding something that's boring, that's working well. Because if you kind of reach the point where you're finding relatively good success and it has become boring, then that means you've kind of created a system or a process where whatever you're doing is working. So you kind of don't want to deviate from that too much. So in the past, I do find that if I am to reach something and it does become a bit stagnant or boring, then I typically go off and create maybe a different website or try something completely new. But in this particular website, I'm actually really happy that I've reached a point where, I'm kind of doing the same things day after day. Keyword research, vetting writers, proofreading the content, publishing it. That's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 8 months. And I continue to keep doing the same, because whatever's working now, I hope it's going to continue to keep working in the future as well. So also with my plans for October, I do plan on hiring more writers, as I do have a little bit of extra time during the week on my hands. And I also do plan on hiring a part-time editor as well to kind of pick up the work of these extra writers as well. And additionally, I do want to work on the monetization of the website. And there's pretty much not too much there's not too much you can do with ad-based monetization CRO. I guess the main things you can do is to maybe break up paragraphs of older content that maybe wasn't as optimized for ads, maybe add in a few extra images to allow for more ad placements as well. So I think the first 300 posts, they weren't as well optimized as they could be. So I think I'll have to go back to those, break up the paragraphs, add some more images for those. And then on top of that, I have been accepted into a few different affiliate programs. So I am going to try some affiliate offers for this particular niche, as I do think that there is some good potential with the readers for this website, and it would add value to their experience as well. So I could do this by in-content kind of pop-ups, or exit intent pop-ups, or kind of sticky kind of hovering bars as well. So these are things that I'm going to be playing around with in October. And that's pretty much it for this one, guys. So hope you're all going well, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.